Hey everyone, and welcome back to Inside the Mind, the podcast where we try to figure out why we do the weird things we do. I'm your host, Daniel Reyes, and today's episode is one I think a lot of people are going to connect with. We're talking about fear, but not just any fear phobias. You know, the kind of fear that makes your heart race, your hands sweat, and your brain go, "Nope, I'm out of here," even when nothing dangerous is actually happening. I've met people who freeze up at the sight of a spider. Others who can't get on a plane or can't look at a clown without panicking. So what's going on? Where do these fears come from? And how do we know if it's a normal fear or a real phobia? Today, we've got the perfect guest to help us out. Dr. Amanda Chen. She's a clinical psychologist who's worked with hundreds of people dealing with fear and anxiety. She helps people face the things they're terrified of and figure out how to take back control. Dr. Chen, welcome to the show.
Hi, Daniel. Thanks so much for having me. I'm excited we don't talk about phobias enough, and there's a lot to unpack.
Totally. So let's start at the beginning. What really makes something a phobia?
Great question, Daniel. A phobia is more than just being scared of something. It's an intense, overwhelming fear that feels completely out of your control. It's the kind of fear that stops you from living your life normally. Like someone sees a tiny spider across the room and they run out of the house. That's not just dislike, that's panic.
I had a friend growing up. He was terrified of buttons. Seriously, couldn't wear shirts with buttons, couldn't touch them. It sounds silly, but he'd cry as a kid if you got too close with one.
That's actually a real phobia. Kumpunophobia. It might sound odd to others, but to the person experiencing it, it's very real and very upsetting. That's the thing about phobias. They don't always make logical sense.
So it's not about the object, it's about the reaction.
Exactly. Your brain responds as if you're in real danger, even when there's no threat.
All right. So how do these things start? Are we born with them?
Sometimes we are born with a more sensitive fear system. But most phobias come from experiences, especially ones that feel scary or out of our control. It could be something that happened to you, or something you saw happen to someone else.
I've got a listener story here. A woman named Rachel messaged us. She said she's terrified of bridges, like can't drive over them. Her hands start shaking and she has to pull over, but she's never had a bad experience on a bridge.
That's actually not uncommon. It might be something she picked up from someone else, like a parent who was nervous on bridges. Or maybe it's linked to a general fear of heights or falling. Sometimes the brain connects the dots in strange ways.
So phobias don't always come from one big traumatic moment?
Exactly. Sometimes it's a bunch of small things that build up over time.
Have you ever worked with a case that really surprised you?
Yes, one woman I worked with had a fear of balloons. She couldn't go to birthday parties even as an adult, because the sound of a balloon popping sent her into a full-blown panic. We worked slowly through exposure therapy, and eventually she was able to go to her niece's party. It took months, but it was worth it.
Wow, that's something most of us wouldn't even think about.
And then there are the rare ones. I've seen people with phobias of mirrors, butterflies, even cotton balls. The brain can attach fear to almost anything.
Okay, I've got one more story. My cousin says she freaks out around clusters of holes, like beehives, coral, anything like that. Is that a real thing?
Yes, that's called trypophobia. It's not officially listed as a clinical phobia in all diagnostic guides, but a lot of people have strong fear reactions to it: nausea, anxiety, even itching.
I thought she was joking when she first told me, but she showed me a picture and her hands were literally shaking. So if someone out there is listening and they've got a phobia, what can they actually do about it?
The good news is phobias are treatable. The most proven method is called exposure therapy. It's a step-by-step way to slowly get used to the thing you fear. You start small, safe, and you build confidence.
Doesn't that sound terrifying though? Facing the exact thing you're scared of?
It is. But the brain is powerful and it can learn. Once it realizes that nothing bad happens during those exposures, the fear starts to shrink.
What about medication?
Sometimes, yes. If the anxiety is really high, doctors may prescribe medication to help calm the nervous system, especially while going through therapy. But long term, the goal is usually to teach the brain how to react differently.
Okay, before we wrap up, I want to talk to the folks listening who might be wondering, is this me? Do I actually have a phobia? I think it's easy to laugh off our fears sometimes or just say, I'm scared of flying, or I hate spiders, and not realize it might be something more serious.
Absolutely. And part of the reason people don't recognize it is because phobias can hide in plain sight. People develop habits around avoiding their fear. They take different routes, skip certain events, make excuses. It becomes normal for them, even if it's limiting their life in real ways.
Right, and I imagine that avoidance becomes part of the routine. Like if you're terrified of driving over bridges, maybe you start mapping out long detours without even thinking about it anymore.
Exactly. Avoidance actually reinforces the fear over time. The more you avoid, the more your brain believes that the thing really is dangerous. That's why it's so important to recognize when fear is starting to control your choices.
So, how can someone tell if what they're feeling is just a strong dislike or a real phobia?
Well, a phobia usually causes an intense emotional and physical reaction: racing heart, shaking, nausea, even the urge to run away. And more than that, it interferes with your life. If your fear is stopping you from doing everyday things, taking a flight, going to a party, getting an MRI, it's worth looking into.
And let's be real, there's no shame in that. Phobias aren't a personality flaw, they're a treatable condition.
Exactly. And the earlier you catch it, the easier it is to work through. You don't have to wait until it's taking over your life. Even if it feels small, talking to a therapist can help you understand it and decide whether treatment is a good step.
So if you're listening and you've been quietly dealing with something like this is your sign. You don't have to white-knuckle it forever. There's support, there's science, and there's real hope.
Well said. You're not weak for being afraid, and you're not alone in it either.
Dr. Amanda Chen, thank you so much for your time, your stories, and all the help today. I learned a lot, and I think our listeners did too.
Thanks for having me, Daniel. It was a pleasure.
All right, folks. Remember, fear is a part of being human, but phobias don't have to control your life. If you're struggling with one, you're not weird and you're not alone. There's help out there, and you can get better. Until next time, stay curious and stay kind.